Hi everyone, we are here again for another episode of Career Talk with Eno and Chichi. So this is Chichi speaking, and Eno is in the background there. Eno, hi, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So today we're going to be talking about one of those very important topics that most people, in fact, everyone or most people that listen to this have actually gone through, and we're going to talk about interviews. So last time we talked about resumes. If you haven't listened to it, go listen. We have it up on YouTube and a lot of platforms. So um, today we're going to talk about interviews. So as we all know, interviews are the next step. So when you have that really good resume that gets you in the door, um, you're probably going to be invited for an interview. And so you need to be prepared. You need to understand the kind of interview you're going for. You need to be sure that you understand what's going to be expected of you, and that would help you to put your best foot forward when you're going for anyone, or even if it's answering an interview call and stuff like that. So I'm going to start with mentioning the types of interviews. The four types of interviews that we could are going to talk about today. There might be others, but the ones I'm going to focus on today are one, we have technical interviews, we have the interviews by phone calls, phone call interviews, behavioral interviews, and informational interviews. But I'm going to start off by talking about how you prepare for an interview and the types of interviews. And I'll talk about the remaining two, and then if you have another thing else to add to that, we will before we wrap up. So, and do you have anything to say at this point, or before I continue?
No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start with getting ready for an interview. So there are a few things I thought to mention, and then as we go along this podcast, we might also talk about other things that might come up. But a few things I even think you should actually be aware of is at the point where you actually apply for that job with your resume, you should have a copy of the JD somewhere. You should save it somewhere on your system, so that when you are called for that interview and that job post is not available anymore, you have some reference to what kind of job it is, what the description is, so that you can use that to prepare properly for the interview. In a case where you don't have that, it might not be so easy to remember the exact job, especially if you're in that job hunting phase where you're applying to a lot of jobs, and you might not be able to track okay, what company, what exact role. And imagine if you had applied for like 2 or 3 different roles in a company and you're not particularly sure about the one, and even if they do mention, you might not remember the exact details of that job posting. So that's one thing you should do while you're applying for the job, and that will help you prepare for the interview. Another thing I wanted to also touch on is studying that job description. So you have it saved somewhere, and then you get that call that says would want to interview you, let's say for the phone call interview. So the phone interviews, I'm going to try to explain them now, and then talk about how you prepare for them alongside. So if you're called at any, let's say you're driving and you get that call and you are suspecting it's probably the company, and you're not in the right frame of mind at that point in time, or you're just en route, maybe en route in the bus or in transit, or you're in a place that you just really can't talk of your performance at the time, I would suggest that you actually reschedule and say, okay, person mentions, oh hello, I'm from so and so company. Are you okay to talk right now? As much as you really want to have that chat, if you're not really in the right frame of mind, just say, okay, this is not such a good time, but I would like to reschedule a time that we can have that chat. So when would be a good time? And then you guys can schedule a time, and they will call you back. If they want you, they will call you back. But try to reschedule as soon as possible. So if it's in an hour time, it's in 30 minutes, just to get your thoughts together, find out the company, and then you can use that first step, that 30 minutes or that 1 hour before they call back to actually, get ready for that phone interview. And that would actually help improve your performance, because if you do it on the spot, if you're not ready, you might not really give your best, and then the call goes off and you're saying, oh, I should have said that, maybe I should have mentioned that, so it's not, you don't be under the pressure to always answer that call immediately if you're not up to it. So phone interviews are mainly usually at the HR personnel, like they're the ones I usually call the HR office. And in those cases, they want to know the kind of person you are. It's a bit behavioral as well. They want to know whether you understand what the role is about, whether you understand the company, whether you know what the company is about. And they're trying to assess if you can fit into the role before they put you in the next level of the interview with the hiring manager or your teammates and stuff like that. So you really need to be able to put your best foot forward and be your best self at that point in time. And if you actually have time to review the JD and see how you can tie it into, and actually also quickly go back and refresh your mind on what the company does, what your role is going to be, exactly what is required of you, then you can answer the questions more appropriately. So that's for phone interviews as well as getting ready for them. Then behavioral interviews will probably be more on when you are called in by the hiring manager, like maybe let's say the next level of interview. And even that phone interview, they can actually ask you some behavioral questions. So, okay, what are behavioral interview questions? Sometimes they might ask you about your strengths, your weaknesses, and they might want to know how you behave in certain situations, certain scenarios, and they might paint a case study for you and want you to actually walk them through it. And that's where things like the STAR method comes in. And the STAR method, for those of you that probably haven't heard it, is more of situation, what did you do, what was the task, what was the action, what was the result. They want to know how you actually handled that situation at that point in time. How did you come out victorious? Or even if you didn't, what did you learn? What did you do differently? How did that impact you? How did that help you to make better decisions in the future? Those kinds of things, right? So those are where the hiring manager is trying to assess whether you're going to probably fit in the team, whether you're the right person for the job, whether they would want to work well with, whether they can work well with you, whether they want to work with you, and what kind of prospects you're going to come in with. So you have to be able to know how to present yourself properly when it comes to that. And then even before you come for that behavioral interview, so in that case, it's probably going to be face-to-face. Most of the time it is, or maybe it's a Skype one, depending on the nature of it. But you have to know details of that interview. What's the location? How long is it going to take you to get there? Check the weather for that day. For example, if you're in Canada and it's during winter, you don't want to be taken by surprise about anything really. So if, let's say, it's next week, you need to check, okay, once they send you the invites, they usually send it a few days early, a week early, probably 2 weeks early sometimes. You need to check and look and see, okay, how long is it going to take me to get there? How do I want to get there? Do I have parking or not? It's better for me to go with transit. You have to check all the logistics attached to that. Because if you don't and you're doing it last minute, if you get there late, it's going to affect your composure. It's going to affect, if you have a whole script and you're so prepared, it can actually affect your performance because you might just forget some of the things. Because another thing too is when you come exactly on time, they'll see it as late. So let's say your interview is 2 p.m. and you're just getting in there 2 p.m., 2:01 p.m. That's late. You're supposed to be there at least 15 minutes before, 10 minutes before, have your seats and sit. In fact, some people even advise you to come 30 minutes before, go into a coffee shop nearby, and then when it's 15 minutes before, you walk into the reception and say you're there for your interview, and that you're okay to wait till it's time for them to come pick you up for the interview. So that way, you're in control of the situation, you're in control of yourself, you're in control of the way your mind is working at that point in time. Nothing is going to throw you off balance. You're ready. Okay? And then, of course, you have to dress properly. So it depends on the company as well. Some companies will probably, most times, it's just advisable to dress as formal as possible. And then maybe when you start working and they do dress down, you can, accentuate that. But at the same time, if you do find out that before the interview that they dress business casual, you can try it out. But for me, maybe because of my background, I'll probably want to dress more formal on that first interview day and look as professional as possible, and then adjust when you get the job to what the dress code is. And dressing well for me is also a way to, I feel like it's something that actually helps your confidence, for whether you're a man or a lady. If you do dress well, you feel, okay, I look good, and that's probably going to add to how your confident level is. Of course, it's not just about dressing well. There are other things. If you do know your stuff, if you've gotten ready, if you studied and you're prepared and you know what you're going to say, that also helps your confidence. So everything is supposed to get you to a point where your confidence is not affected. You shouldn't feel, because I'm in Canada. Okay, so I had this call with a client at some point, and she was really scared that she knew her stuff. She knew she had the right background, she had the right experience, but it was more or less how our interviews done here. Would they actually find me valuable? So you have to make sure that your self really good level, so that it doesn't affect your performance. Because if you do know your stuff, you should remember that and don't lose sight of that. So at this point, I think I'm going to hand it over to Eno to continue with the other two types of interviews, technical and informational. And then if she has any other things to add, she can, and then I can come back later, and then you can just take it up from there. Eno, can you take it
Thank
up?
Thank you, Chioma. Sure. So I'll just like to add a few things about preparing for interviews. So, of course, you got your resume, professionally written, it was a great match to the job, and you got an email saying you're invited for an interview, or you got an email saying, can you choose a time so we can call you? HR is going to call you to interview you. First of all, you want to go to the company's website, do your research about the company, the company's mission, vision, goals, values. And then, of course, for that role, what department or what unit, what business unit of the company are you going to be working in? Is it strategic? Is it tactical? Is it operational? Look at what the business unit does, what's the value system. And then, of course, something I always advise is also, research on that industry too. If it's an oil and gas, if it's tech, if it's manufacturing, whatever, healthcare, research on, the latest industry trends, the challenges, and then, of course, the company's CSR, which are the corporate social responsibility initiatives they've been carrying out. Like those kind of things are things you can use to actually boost your performance in the interview, because you're able to talk about things that are valuable to the company, and then they see that, this person has done some good research, and these are things you can include when you're answering your questions like, why do you want to work for this company? So that's very important to research the company. When you get there, like Chioma said, get there early, go with a few copies of your resume, because you never know. You may just need to hand it over to maybe somebody who never got your resume. Maybe I've been in cases where maybe the person who was supposed to interview me, or one of the people on the panel, didn't show up, and it was a new person. They just dragged in another manager to come interview, and the person didn't get a chance to look at my resume beforehand, and because I had it, I can just, hand it over to that person, and the person can look at my resume, get an idea of, what my experience is. Another thing I like to talk about is, like Chioma said, dressing. Even though most companies here, is business casual, they wear a lot of denim, some tech companies, people wear shorts, and sneakers, and sandals, but you want to look professional, no bright colors, just, black, blue, gray, those kind of professional colors. For guys, wear like a white shirt or a blazer. Same thing for ladies, a camisole, innerwear, blazer, skirts, gowns, nice pump shoes. Same thing for guys, nice, corporate looking shoes. Just look professional for the interview. And then when you get into the company, whatever the company culture is, you can blend in with them. So very important. Another thing I like to talk about is your scent. Here, scents are not something, a lot of companies, it's mostly scent free or just little scent. So don't wear very overpowering perfumes that, would probably give people allergies, because there are people who have scent allergies. So you need to also be conscious of that, and don't overpower yourself with, like 5 or 6 perfumes, or perfumes that have very strong scent that can actually make your interviewer feel very uncomfortable. So that being said, I want to talk about technical interviews. So technical interviews are basically for roles that are really technical. I see this a lot in like IT. So let's say you're applying for a developer role. You may be asked to, write some code, develop some codes, or you may be given some queries and given a data set and asked to use it, write some queries, or, query the data using SQL, or to carry out some data visualization using Power BI, or you're applying for a product manager role, or a creative designer role, and you're given a tool and ask one of the tools that you're going to use on the job, and you're asked to design a website or design something or just design a prototype. So these are technical interviews. Some I have seen where you're not actually design, you're actually giving like questions, but they're very technical questions, maybe like for network security, cloud computing, those kind of roles I've seen where they're giving like a set of, technical questions and you're asked to answer it. So, and those are basically just case studies as well, but you're giving situations, but you're supposed to answer it based on your technical ability. So those kind of interviews are not general. They're for some specific kinds of skill sets. So you need to know that if I'm in IT and I'm in a very technical role, I may have to do a technical interview. And for that reason, I need to, get my practice, find out, what tools I'm going to be using on the job. Like Chioma said, always have the job description. That's like that's what is going to get you that job. Knowing your job, the job description, what is going to be required, what tools are you going to be using. If you know the tools, you can start practicing with those tools if you haven't used all of them. Because if you're giving a test and you've never tried to use that tool before, you're probably going to flop it. So practice with the tools that are required for that role. And of course, to touch on phone interviews, when you have your phone interview, make sure, like Chioma said, you don't have to take the call at that time. If you're called and you say, please, can I call you back tomorrow at 12 noon, or can we talk at 3 p.m. on Tuesday? Like, you can reschedule that call, and then make sure you have the job description and your resume, and you're looking at both of them, and make sure that your answers are aligned to the job description. Very, very important. So for every job role that you've applied for, always create a folder, have it there, Chevron, July 2019, the title, project manager, project coordinator, have it there so that you can always go back to it, and then you can just pull up all the information you need to prepare for your interview. Another thing I'd like to talk about is for the behavioral interviews, which Chioma has talked about extensively. You need to be able to align your experience to the job description. For every question you're asked, you have to give a very valid and standard response using the STAR methodology. It has to be a situation. It has to be a case, something that you've experienced based on, you worked at XYZ company. You need to give a story. And that's where storytelling comes in. It's a very powerful skill in interviewing. If you don't have a great storytelling skill, then you may not do very well in interviews, especially in this part of the world. They want to hear it from your own experience, how you're able to handle situations, because they believe that if you're able to handle a lot of these situations at work, handling difficult stakeholders, conflict resolution skills, interpersonal skills, communication skills, these are very vital in the workplace. Here, they are more valued than the technical skills, because the truth is everybody can learn the technical side of things, but your behavior and how you relate with people around you, that's an innate thing. So you need to have those skills. It's very, very important. And then informational interviews, it's the other way around. Informational interviews is not the HR or the hiring manager asking you the questions. It's you asking the questions. Now, I really like when people carry out informational interviews. This is something I did. And that's when I was, I was trying to get a job, and, I was very specific about the kind of job I wanted. So what I did was, meeting with people who are working in those industries, in those job roles, or people who are already like hiring managers or directors, and you're asking them questions that relate to that job. But that really helps you during your interview, because you're getting a lot of tips from people who have already passed through this interview stages and the job search phases, or they're currently working in that role. You're able to understand, what the challenges are, and what they do, what's a day in the life of that person. the day in the life of the person as a business analyst, as a project manager, as an engineer, as a nurse, whatever the person does, be able to understand what the person does every day, how projects are handled, and everything. That helps you to be able to answer the questions appropriately. Something I also like to advise is that when you have an interview in a certain company, and if you're able to network with people who work there, ask questions, because every company is different. The interview style, their recruitment styles are very different. Some companies is just one phone call and then you meet the hiring manager and the hiring manager makes a decision. From some companies it's different, like 4 or 5 stages. You have to do like an online assessment. From the online assessment, you do a phone call interview, and then you first talk with the hiring manager, and then you meet with a panel of executive directors or VPs, or then you meet with the CEO, depending on the level of role you're applying for. So there are different stages for different companies, so that you don't raise your hopes so high, because for some companies the recruitment process can be 1 week, 2 weeks. For some it could be months. So if you're aware of how long the recruitment process is, you don't have your hopes so high. But what I believe is that interviewing is a skill, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. But one thing I'll always advise is like always prepare for your interviews. Prepare with a friend. I have an interview. I called up Chichi. Hi Chichi, I have an interview. Please, I'd like to just prep, with you. We'll do mock interviews together. You can criticize me, critique some things I say, correct me. And it just helps me to actually know my stuff better, because your interview, you should be speaking about your experience and your resume. So you should be able to speak to everything on your resume without looking at your resume. And then, of course, something that I always advise people do before the interviews is also research. So you could use research tools like YouTube, for that particular role that you're applying for. Project manager interview questions and answers, business analyst interview questions and answers. You can even search for very specific, say, accounting interview question and answers in PwC, in KPMG, in any of the big fours. You could also use Glassdoor. So in Glassdoor and Indeed, mostly Glassdoor though, there are a lot of interview question and answers that they get people to actually put in, and that helps you understand, how does this company ask interview questions? What are the common questions that are asked during interviews? So basically for me, that's really all about interviews that I find would be very helpful for anybody that is listening. Chioma, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, that's really good. You touched on really good points there. So while we are talking, I remembered video interviews. So sometimes you have interviews where, like when you have different stages during the whole process of them recruiting you, you might have a stage where they tell you, they're going to send you a link, and then you're going to have a video interview. And most times you're not talking to anyone. Sometimes it's just maybe when you click on the link and then it starts recording you. Most times they do have, like, you have to prep. So they might give you a few tests for you, like a few testing videos where you can look at yourself and see how you look and answer 1 or 2 questions and get a feel of how it works. And then you go into the main interview. So the one tip I'm going to give there is, most of the time it's actually based on maybe the job role plus behavioral combined. But and most of the time you have to actually answer using the STAR method. But one thing that is really important and most people actually miss out on is the video. When you're actually recording your video interview, look at the webcam. Don't be tempted to look at yourself. Look at the webcam, and when you're looking at the webcam, it's as if you're looking into the eyes of the person that's actually going to be watching it when they are playing your recording. Because if you're looking at yourself, chances are you'll be looking as if you're timid and you're looking down and you're not really looking at them, but you're just looking at yourself. So try it. You can try it sometime before the video interview. Try to not just the testing before the main interview. On your own, you can just try to record yourself on your webcam or your laptop and see the difference between looking at the webcam and looking at yourself on the screen of your laptop. There's a difference. So try to look at the webcam when you're answering. Don't be tempted to look at yourself when you're answering, to look at how your face is. Do that before the interview. I just felt to touch on that. And then one more thing is, some companies these days, when they actually put out job postings out there, when they shortlist you, sometimes they send you some quick task to do for you to get ready before your interview. So Eno has touched on the technical bit where they might tell you on the spot, but sometimes you might actually have where they send you things to do before. She also touched on that as well. But the difference here is, if you have something that you're asked to work on and then you're supposed to present that on the interview day, don't just come up with it. So for example, if it's a dashboard on Power BI and you're asked to bring it up to the interview and talk about it, make sure you have good points. Get ready for that presentation. It's not just showing them the dashboard, it's about being able to explain what you've done, so at least they're really sure you're the one that did. Because remember, you are given time to do it before you came into the interview. So the way you talk about it, the way you present it, is also going to make them believe you know your stuff and you know what you did. Because they're going to ask you questions that, if you probably didn't do it, you may not be able to answer very well. So, and they always advise that you do it yourself, because you talk about it, the way you're going to talk about it will show that you know the in and out of that whole presentation of that particular artifact or work product. And then one more thing is understanding the values. So she's mentioned and has mentioned the understanding the values for the interview, and also talking company before you go for that interview. I've seen that play out a lot of times, and they might tell you, when they ask you this kind of question, answer it this way. And that's the importance of actually having someone that is in that company, because when they give you the tips, you will know how to focus on during your preparation for that interview. You know what to focus on, you know what they want to hear. You kind of have that inroad already into how things will play out. So it's very, very important. I just thought I should stress that, in case you didn't hear it the first time. It's very important if you could network and actually have people there and have someone that you can talk to before the interview. If you don't get around to that, that's fine, but it's actually a huge advantage for you if you get to. And then there's this big question that comes up in interviews sometimes, salary. How much are you expecting?
Yeah.
There are all kinds of ways I've heard to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard all kinds of things. Some say give a band. Some say, first of all, so there's this. I've had someone that thought he's a recruiter. He still is, but he told me, ask them, what are you? What's your budget? What do you have? What are you planning to offer? Like, when they ask you, that you should throw it back to them.
Well, that's really the right way to answer it, though, and that's how I've always done. That's how I've always been to answer it. Yeah, because
then you get to see their hand first.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Because if you say it first, you might be shooting yourself in the foot.
Oh yeah, a lot of the time, like negotiating your salary, like when they throw that salary question at you, ask, what's the budget for this role?
Yeah, what's the budget for the role?
What's the salary range for this role?
Yeah,
or based on the level, the level for this role, what is the approved range? Because for every role there's a range, right? So
the range, yeah.
So within that range, you cannot look at, okay, where do I want to place myself? Where do I think, based on my experience
and everything.
Most times people will tell you, okay, stay in the median, and then from there you can negotiate higher. Don't go to the lower band. So say 70 to 90, stay in 80, and then you can negotiate higher. So yeah.
I've also had someone tell me, the same recruiter I'm actually referring to, I've had someone tell me, if they give you the band and you want, let's say they say 70 to 90, like let's use that example, and then you want to say, and then you want to give your own range. Make sure that, so if you're giving the range of 80 to 85, right, make sure that 80 you're very okay with it.
Yep, because that's where they're going to start from.
That's probably where they're going to start from. Not expect them to say 85. No. We are trying to save money. It's budget cuts. We have budget here. You can't just like, they won't want to give you the highest immediately. Most times, some people are kind like that. They might give you the highest, but depending on your experience as well, like she said. But you have to make sure that whatever lower band you're giving them is something you're actually okay with. Because if you're not okay with it, they might end up there, and you don't want to be unhappy, because you might not say, I should have said 85 to 87 or 85 to 90, because I was actually okay with 85. I was just hoping they would take 85 and not 80. So make sure that the lower band of whatever range you're giving them is exactly what you're going to be okay with, so that you don't come out with regrets later.
Very true. And that's where research comes in. Because exactly. If you had researched on that role, researched on the company, first of all, research what's the industry standard, what's the average annual pay for this role in my city, in Calgary, in Toronto, in New York, what's the average pay for a business analyst, what's the average pay for a scrum master, you get that. Okay, this is the average range. Okay, so for XYZ company, look at Glassdoor. You definitely see something there. I've never gone to Glassdoor and I didn't see something. It may not be accurate. Maybe the information may be quite outdated, but still, it will tell you the year. So you know, okay, even if it was 2017, 2018, okay, let me add like a 5K or a 10K to it or something. But at least you're playing within the range. Sometimes you may just be out of the range. And even if it's for an hourly rate job too, ask the recruiter, what's your client's budget? The recruiter always knows the client's budget, because when the statement of work comes to the recruiter, the client's budget is always there. The client says their minimum and their max. So ask. And then that's where you can now say, okay, I'm going to take 90, I'm going to take 100, that kind of thing. So that's where research comes in. And also be confident. That's where another place where confidence comes in too. If you're not confident about, your experience, what value you're bringing, when the salary talk comes up, if you're not confident, you're not able to actually say, this is what I want, and you're looking at the manager straight in the eye. And because you know that you've been able to speak to your experience, speak to your knowledge, and you know that you spoke from a place of value throughout the interview, you won't be so confident. I've seen people go for interviews and I asked, how did it go? It was great. Oh, nice. So based on salary, and you find that they underpriced themselves because they undervalued themselves. They didn't know how much value they were bringing because they weren't confident, that they aced that interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've also had cases where this one was just the other end, but I don't see it happen often, where someone goes and then they apply for a particular role, and then they go in and they are offered the supervisor of that particular role. But that's just a case of actually knowing, okay, maybe he probably applied for something that was lower than what he had to offer.
Oh, yeah.
And then they assessed it and be like, oh no, he shouldn't be in this level, he should be in something higher.
And that's just great interviewing skills, right? Because was able to answer questions and they could see
that they could see exactly.
Oh, this guy is an expert. Like he's not intermediate, he's not entry level. This guy is an expert. He has 10 to 15 years experience. He's worked on so many projects that span across different countries, projects that run into millions of dollars. So of course he can hold a large portfolio. So why would we want to underutilize him based on his experience?
Exactly.
So, and I've also seen cases where people go for interviews and they get offered even way more than they were expecting. And it kind of throws you off balance when you're offered way more than you're expecting. At that point, you're just like, okay, that's fine.
And then you have to adjust your expectation up to, I can totally relate to that. You have to adjust your expectation and you're like, yeah.
So
you weren't evaluating yourself as much as you should have.
Exactly. So, I think everybody has been there, especially when you're just new to, like, maybe you just moved and, you got an offer and it was way higher than you expected. Like, yeah, sure. You take it. Like, you don't even want to negotiate. You don't even want to push. Yeah. So they don't say, oh, she's even pushing it. But a lot of the times when you get it, you realize, oh, that wasn't even the lower band.
Exactly.
That was even the lower band. So that's why research is good. Like, do everything you can to just know. So you're speaking from a place of knowledge. Because if you're speaking from a place of ignorance, I'm saying this from experience. Like, if you're from a place of ignorance, you probably cheat yourself in the long run. Fine, like, you never know. Like, you get a promotion. Even there are people that within a few months, because they were able to prove themselves, and the manager just felt, oh wow, this person doesn't deserve a higher position, and your pay increases. But hey, you never know, right? So try to do the groundwork first before you step into that interview. And Chioma, something that I find that in every interview, this is where people, they get it, is a hit or miss, is the tell me about yourself question. Yeah. So that's like the elephant in the room. And for a lot of interviews, I find like a lot of people mix this out. And I really don't blame a lot of people because, first of all, interviewing style in maybe the country you're coming from is different. Like where I come from, Nigeria, interviewing style is so different. Like it's not really behavioral in it. It's all technical. It's all,
quite more technical. They don't care about
it's all technical. It's all, you have to get so much information that you don't even need on the job. You need to know it.
Yeah.
You need to know everything about politics. For an accounting job. So like, but tell me about yourself question. It's like it's different in every interview that in every country. So you don't need to know it at first. Like everybody, it's something you need to practice to get to know how to answer. So that's why practice comes in very well. But the truth is, being able to just talk about yourself briefly, but highlight your key competencies, your experience, your certifications, like whatever that is unique about you. Basically, it's like a value proposition. It's like just telling them. It's like your pitch, yeah. It's like your elevator pitch. In just 2 minutes, just say why you're the best for that role. Like that, tell me about yourself. Is like if you can answer that question very well. I've been in interviews where I've answered that question and the interviewer goes, okay, well, you've really told us everything we need to know. So they just ask you like a few behavioral questions just to get to understand, where you're at as regards your relationship skills, your communication skills, and that's where it ends really. So being able to answer that question and to snipe, because if you can it's like a snipe question, be able to snipe that question very well, hit the nail on the head, all the valid points. I think every interview will be good for you, unless there's a technical part that you probably don't get to now pass.
Don't mention, Oh, you are done with that. But what I also think we should actually really also mention here is when I said pitch, I remember how sometimes I go for networking events. I still do, but I used to do more often when I was job hunting. And then you have to give your pitch to someone. So let's say it's a speed networking event, and then you have employers sitting, and then you have talent, people that want a job going around to different tables. You need to have your pitch ready. So people don't go there without having a pitch ready. Oh, let's just go network and talk to people. As much as you want to have it natural as possible, you also have to be able to highlight the key attributes and the key things that you're bringing to the table, even though it's not necessarily a formal interview. Like it's not called an interview, but that is actually an informal interview that they could see, and the kind of impression you make that first time could actually lead you to that main interview and make them not forget you, remember you, and actually, even if they don't have a role available or an opening or vacancy at that point in time, they might actually have you in mind such that when one comes up, they actually buzz you. And I've had that experience a couple of times, and it's actually really important. And it wasn't even a case of it wasn't even something so serious. It was just more or less being aware of yourself and having that picture and knowing the kind of things you can actually mention. Because at that point in time, you don't have any JD to tie it to. Mm-hmm. You don't have any company. You might know the company, but you don't necessarily have anything concrete to tie it to. So you're just more or less being more generic on your pitch. So you're gonna have to customize. You're gonna have to customize your pitch depending on the situation, depending on the company, depending on the JD. There are some key things that wouldn't be, but there are some things you can twist and tweak to actually match the JD. But in cases where you don't have any JD you're working with, you have to be able to present yourself so that they'll be like, I think I want to have a conversation with that person later.
Oh, yeah.
I think, so being able to present yourself at any point in time beyond when you're in the interview setting could actually lead you to that main interview that will land you that job.
And that's very possible. And that's where preparation, comes in, because if you've not been preparing, if you've not been preparing, like, you should get to a point where you don't need to hold your resume to speak about. I mean, why should I speak about something I did for 5 years? Why should I speak about a project I worked on, where I was working with a team of 10 people and we worked on that project? It was a 12-month project. I don't see why I need to look at my resume. I should be able to speak to everything, from the initiation of the project to the end of that project. So for me, what I would say is for people who prepare and prep a lot, like having that pitch will never be a problem for you. Yeah. Another thing that is very, very key that I find, Chioma, that, you know, a lot of people also miss out is, you know, when they are preparing for interviews, they don't know like the key terminologies in that industry or for that role. You know, there are some key terms that you actually have to use. Every industry, there are terminologies that are unique to every industry, to every job role. So I'm a business analyst and I cannot talk about my experience without talking about the things I did, which is, you know, requirement elicitation, interviews, workshops, you know, reviews, you know, requirement analysis, design, solution evaluation. Like those things are things that BA would do anywhere in any industry. Same thing with the project manager. Talk about your budget, the schedule, you know, how you're able to manage cost, time, scope, like everything, schedule, like quality management, procurement management, like all those things are what the project manager does. So if you don't know like the key terms you should use, the key things you should say, then of course you won't be able to get your pitch right and just snipe on that interview.
Yeah, because those keywords, when you mention them, they kind of hit home for the person and they feel like, okay, this person knows their onions, they know what they're talking about. But if you're using just layman's language, like just normal, you're saying the same thing, but you're just not saying it in a very technical and professional way.
Exactly.
So to speak. You wouldn't really make the kind of impression that someone that's using those keywords, you know.
Yeah, and another thing,
it wouldn't be the same.
And another thing, Chioma, that also that, you know, I had to, and I don't know, for me, I learned all these things myself, and that's why I just feel like, you know, like we're just helping other people not to, you know, not to go through all these hurdles.
Go through that. I know.
It's because let's say, for example, banking, you know, there, you know, what the securities are called here is not what it's called like back home in your country. Security instruments, you know, the types of investments, even the job roles, like it's called like financial services rep, financial services manager. Like in Nigeria, it's called like marketing manager. But in here, a marketing manager is not the person that sits in the bank and, you know, does a loan application and all that. So like it's different. It's also different. Like the terms, even in the industry, same thing with oil and gas, you know, same thing with, you know, in technology, manufacturing, healthcare. You know, you need to also use terms. If you've worked in healthcare, you know, look at the job descriptions for different companies, do research, you know, read articles that relate to the industry, you know, in your country. Like in Canada, for example, you should be reading articles that relate to BA or PM or IT. And then you're used to those terms, you're able to use them in the interview. So you're not using terms that are unknown to the interviewer and they're like, I don't really, can you explain what you mean by that? And then when you explain it, you say, oh, you mean like GICs?
Exactly.
You know, or you mean like ETFs? Oh, okay. Or you mean like mortgages? Oh, okay. So just use like the right term. So that's why research comes in. Like, just be prepared, like all round. Be prepared all round for your interviews.
And then the research also ties back to the informational interview we talked about earlier. If you do your research and then you want to clarify with someone that is already in that role, you're more rounded. Like you are able to actually relate exactly what you're doing to what they have, because most of the time you actually have that experience, you just don't know. In the beginning you just don't know. You have to figure a lot of things out. And so if you're listening to this, you're quite lucky that you get to have all this information. This is information that we've gotten over time based on experience and talking to people, and then you just get it by listening to this. So you should actually be able to apply everything here. You're going to be better off than we were when we started off here in Canada. Really, honestly, I wish there were some people that came up with this.
I'm telling you, I'm sure I would have.
You would have saved me a lot of heartache.
Oh no, Chioma, my first interview was, I don't know, like I feel for that interviewer because my first interview wasn't the best. You know, sometimes I remember I'm like, why did I even answer my questions that way? And it's just because I wasn't used to behavioral questions. I was used to technical questions, you know, questions that would, you know, I'd prepared for a technical interview, but it was so behavioral, like I was thrown off my feet, you know. So, but I went and I said, this won't happen again. So I went back and I started preparing, researching, you know, improving myself. And, you know, the more I did it, the better I became, you know, at it. So, yeah.
I can relate to that. That what also helped me with the interviews as well was I did a workshop at CCIS, and that was actually what helped me a bit. But some people might not get around to having the opportunity to do that. But that helped me a bit, but it's still not the same, because at some point, even after you learn from there, you have to on your own still do some research and tailor what, like, because it's more generic. Right? You have to tailor it to your industry, to the kind of role you're looking for. You have to still do more research to take off that, but that helped me anyway. So if you come in and you haven't gotten a job yet, and you can go for one of those workshops if you have the time. Than just it helps you figure things out a bit faster. But honestly, it's this also will help you as well, because we've tried to put all the knowledge you have together. And I don't know if I have anything else to add.
Same here.
I think I've more or less emptied everything I have on interviews at the moment. I might have left out one or two, but yeah, these are things I can remember at the time right now, and from what we've prepared for as well. So I hope it helped someone out there. And if you don't have anything else to add, we could just wrap up.
Yeah, I'm done as regards interviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Eno, and thank you for having me. And yeah, really glad that you guys are listening right now. So to wrap up, please make sure that you share this with someone, any of your friends. They're going to be glad that you shared this with them. So anyone that's coming to Canada, or even anyone really anywhere in the world, it could still help them. It could still tailor it to where they are. And so leave a review, share, like, comment. It's encouraging for us, right?
Yes, please.
It is. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you so much. Till next time, it's bye for me.
Yeah. Bye, guys.